We're going to cover the vocabulary, and then we're going to break the ocean floor up into the two parts that it's broken up, putting the different pieces of the ocean floor in there. In a moment, we're going to watch a short video. When you're watching the video, I want you to look for the features. In the video, they're going to mention things about the ocean, specific identities of the ocean. What does the word feature mean? Ray?
Like what it's made up of.
What it's made up of, what identifies it, all the pieces of it. So I want you to look for those features. They're going to have a little word at the bottom, and they're going to talk about that. Try to remember those. If you want, on the margin of your note sheet that you got in front of you, maybe jot them down in pencil so you kind of remember them, because those are going to be our vocabulary that we cover today, okay? So let's take a look.
Dear Tim and Moby, is it true that the tallest mountains on Earth are in the ocean? From Dale. Well, it's pretty shallow here, but you can find the tallest mountains, deepest valleys, and flattest plains in the depths of the ocean. In fact, there's a lot going on below the ocean that we can't see. The Continental Shelf is the edge of a continent that extends out underwater. On the Pacific coast, the Continental Shelf is around 10 to 30 kilometers long, but it's up to 350 kilometers on the Atlantic and Gulf coasts. At the edge of the Continental Shelf, we've got the Continental Slope. That's the end of the continent. Beyond that, there are the trenches, valleys, plains, and ridges that make up the underwater landscape. Currents cause changes in the sea floor by depositing sediment that fills in valleys and makes flat abyssal plains.
There's one.
Earth's plate movements cause the same sorts of surface changes underwater as they do on land. Where plates move apart, a new crust forms to fill in the gaps. When plates come together or converge, one plate moves under the other and is destroyed. Converging plates form trenches. These oceanic trenches are much deeper than any valleys on dry land. Trenches are pretty active zones where volcanoes and earthquakes are likely to happen. And speaking of volcanoes, you often find volcanic activity along mid-ocean ridges, which are underwater mountain chains that form when plates move apart.
There's another.
When volcanoes erupt, hardened lava forms a new crust and a new sea floor. Yeah, it's a cycle. Crust is destroyed in the trenches, and new crust forms at mid-ocean ridges. Sometimes volcanoes will form underwater. These underwater volcanic cones are called seamounts. When seamounts get large enough, they poke out above the water's surface and form volcanic islands like Hawaii. You want to move to Hawaii to surf? Oh, you want to surf to Hawaii? That's pretty much impossible. Whatever.
All right. So in watching that video, it talked about some features. Tell me some of the features that you saw or that you heard them say, Jenny. Seamounts. Brian. Trenches. Good. What else?
Abyssal plain.
Abyssal plain. Very good. Anything else? Ray.
You were talking about mountain chains.
Mountain chains. Now, all of those things that they've discussed, do they only exist underwater?
No.
But they also exist where? On land. So today we are going to be completing our note sheet where you have a picture that looks like this. And then underneath you have definitions with blanks where we fill in the words for the definitions. Before we go through those definitions, let's fill out this top portion, this statement. It says the ocean floor is blank underwater and made up of underwater blank. What word do we think goes here? We look at the first one, the first blank. If we look at this picture, we notice that we start off with this what? Piece of what?
Land.
Land. And that piece of land not only it's not just here. Where else does it go? Underneath the water. So the ocean floor is made up of what, Aaron? Land. That land doesn't disappear underwater. It's still there. It just is underwater now. So it's underwater land. And your picture may be a little bit dark. So you may have to outline that or label this portion here. You can see my little mouse moving around. You may need to label that so that you know that that is land. And then label this portion and know that all of this stuff is water. That's very important because when you're identifying or describing the picture, You need to know that. So the ocean floor is land underwater, made up of underwater what? What do we call those things again? Tell me, mid-ocean ridges and trenches, what are those all called? No, we just called them something. When I said look for the, I said while you're watching the video, look for the, yes, that is one of them, features. Thank you very much. Now we're going to go through and I'm going to explain each feature of the ocean floor. And you have the definition, you're going to put in the word. And then we're going to look at the picture, link it with the definition of the features, and make a connection together. So before we do that, let's just review a vocabulary term that you all came across in your reading on the other day. This is the measurement of the amount of dissolved solids. For example, in our ocean, we have salt. It's the measurement of those amounts of solids that are in any liquid. Bryson, salinity. This is not on your vocabulary. This is just a review. All right, now let's go through your vocabulary. One second. Question? Okay, 1 second. All right, if we look at this, this is the gradually sloping end of the continent that extends under the water. So this is the part that's actually going to be underwater. Here you have your water, and this part of the land is what we're talking about. Notice it extends out. So if you're thinking about extending out, think about things at home. It's a part of your house that extends out from the wall that we call your counter or your shelf. So this would be called the Continental Shelf. Okay? Are we good? All right. Today's class is very easy, just getting these definitions. All right. This is a 3D schematic picture, so it's not like a regular normal picture. But here you have your shelf, and then as you go to, that's where your beach is at. That's where you have your people playing and making sandcastles and just laying along that area. But then as you go deeper, you'll notice that you cannot touch the floor. And that's where your land starts to drop. Even on this picture, it looks like it's very close. So it's like, oh, it's just going to happen very soon. Your shelf could be very, very, very long. You know, sometimes you can walk out and you still can walk out and still be able to touch the bottom and still have your hands up. And then it may be a part where it's like, uh-oh, I no longer touch the bottom. So that's where it slopes down right here. So this would be called your what? Continental slope. Very good. Good? Okay. The next portion that we have here, again, let's just identify ourselves here. Here's again where you may have Ray. He's been in the water, so his hair got kind of crazy. And Ray's sitting down making a sandcastle with his sister. And they're on the beach, right? And then you got deeper out. Now notice this picture is very small, so it does look like everything happens so quickly and so closely. But then you got Jamil, who decided to swim out a little bit further. And he's just chilling and in the water. He doesn't realize how far he's went. But he's kind of deep out because here you have your slope. This is your shelf. And this is where a shark is starting to come. He doesn't see that shark there. But it's not really a shark. It's just Duran playing a game with them. But Duran doesn't realize how far out he is. And a real shark does not like that he's playing a game. So he's about to get him. But This area here, it is close, right at the bottom of the slope, right where it becomes part of the ocean floor where SpongeBob and all of his friends live. And they can't really live there because it doesn't make sense, but this is the part where they show them living. And it's also the part where Nemo and Dory went and they saw the dark creatures. But this would be the very, very bottom part. What do you think that's called? Aaron. That is the Continental Rise. Okay? All right, now we're done with all this is we're about to enter the part that we as humans can't enter if we don't have special equipment to enter that part. So let me just 1 second. Yeah, but that's with special equipment. Here, this is our lower part here, where it's the bottom of the ocean floor, and it's normally a flat area, and normally with our land that we have on Earth that we can see, the flat areas would be called what? Plains. So this would be your abyssal plain. Come on. Submarines can do it because they do have the special equipment and the protection so that it can withstand the pressure. If we went down there on the equipment, our head would explode. Bryson. I'm not really sure. I would have to look that up. Patrick. Just put it in the drawer for right now, Patrick. Don't interrupt fast with that. Alrighty. Now we're still at the bottom of the ocean floor, and we will notice at the bottom of the ocean floor, it says a mountain chain, underwater mountains, or a chain of underwater mountains located where new ocean floor forms. These are your little mountains here. Let me get a different color pen so you can see it. These are your little mountains. And the reason why they're able to be mountains is because you notice that the earth underground is pushing them away. So say if you're in a line and everyone's scrunched up in the line, but I get in between a bunch of people and I start pushing you away, you all start bunching up together where I'm pushing you, correct? And that's what the earth is happening. It's bunching up. And it's going to become very rigid. So this part of the underground floor would be called, or underwater floor. Say it again. These are your mid-ocean ridges. Yes.
I thought that mountain form was kind of place.
No, not when they push together. They can't form. You don't. When they push together,
I thought they're like,
you can have something like that, but that's going to be a crack,
that's not
or you'll get a trench from it. Okay. Now, before we go on to the next spot, wherever we have a mid-ocean ridge, notice that the earth is separating. So you're going to end up with this. Yeah, this lava is going to come up, but then this is going to cool. And when it does cool, it's going to create a flat area. And wherever you have a mid-ocean ridge, you're also going to have this next feature because it's going to create a flat area, and that's called where new ocean floor forms. Goodness gracious. And that new ocean floor that is forming is our next feature, which is here. Here you would have your mountain ridges, your mid-ocean ridges, and here you would have your new area. Aaron. Think you know, Aaron? Not a trench. Devin? This would be your rift valley. And I love the way some of you are flipping your paper over and looking at some of the words that are around there. That's very good. It's a valley, and valleys are low. And this is at the bottom of the ocean floor, and that's low. You have another little valley down there. And this is why the maker of SpongeBob is able to develop these little creatures and things down there, because again, we said the ocean floor is just land underwater with features. So it's like a whole new world, like Ariel said in Little Mermaid. Everyone good with this? Person.
They got on the wrong bus and they get that.
Oh,
yeah. Was that like a big valley that they went to?
I can't remember the episode right off the top of my head. I remember the one where they get on the bus, but I don't want to misquote and say yeah. And we're going to be talking about later on when we get more into the ocean floor. We're going to link it to SpongeBob, and we're going to be finding some discrepancies in SpongeBob because of what we learn and what we know. Jenny.
There's another episode of SpongeBob where Sandy challenged them to
Go to Earth?
Yeah, go to Earth. So is that the continental slope?
That would probably be, if they were still by the water, Continental Slope, but then that would just be land because they went to like a home and things of that nature. Good questions. Alrighty. Moving on to the next one. Here now you have underwater mountain rising above ocean floor and have volcanic origin. They don't always rise above ocean floor. Sometimes they stay a little bit under ocean, but it's still there. So you may think that that is like a continental rise, but it might be just an underwater mountain. Like, for instance, Hawaii. Hawaii is one of the mountains that have come above water and people live on it, but it's dormant, meaning that it's not going to cause a volcano. It's dead. The volcanic eruption is dead. So far they know. It's possible that it still could erupt. Hopefully it does not. Rogerlyn. This would be your seamount. Now notice we call them seamounts, and it looks like it's a mountain under the sea. But we just use the word for sea to represent just water, period. Okay? So far, so good?
Yes.
All right. And our next one. This is just a schematic drawing, but this is a steep, long depression. Depression means a cut. So if you want to put that word next to, let me put a different color. If you want to put that word next to depression, a cut, a slice in the ocean floor. And this happens when your earth is pushing together. They push so hard that this one ends up pushing under that one and gives it a deep cut on the ocean floor. And it causes a deeper level, possibly where maybe SpongeBob and them caught the bus and they may have fell down in this deeper level. I have to look at that episode to be sure. But what is that called, Rogerlyn? This is a trench. Yep, deep in the trenches. Good? Okay. Then last but certainly not least, here you have a flat top seamount. And what happens with this one is, with this seamount, it didn't make it to the top because this part got eroded. And it sank because of the deeper waters and the other chemicals that are in waters. So it never rose up to be a seamount, or never created a top to be a little seamount underwater. Instead, it got eroded. Who knows what this one is? And it's not on the back of your paper. It's a different one. It's called a guyot. A guyot. G-U-Y-O-T. Guyot. We're not done. Let's go. All right. Now, if you look at the bottom of your notes, You have this part. On the bottom, you have your definitions. We've already filled in the words, correct? What do you notice at the very, very, very bottom? And it's at the very bottom, which means that this sheet is now set up like a what? Study guide. Because those bottom portion of your notes, where you do have the 1, 2, 3 all the way to 9, you're going to be linking the letters. So you have 1, 2, 3, going all the way to the number 9. It's asking you for the letters. You're going to be linking. If you notice, your definitions are on the side. You have 1, 2, 3, going all the way to 9 on the side. You're going to be looking at number 1, saying, okay, number 1 is the Continental Shelf. And you look at the definition of the Continental Shelf that was given to you, which says a gradually sloping end of the continent that extends out under the ocean. You look at the picture and say, okay, which part of the picture is a gradually sloping end of the continent extending out from the ocean? Roger, what would that be? A. So 1 would be A. And once you get all this filled out, you'll be able to fold it and then test yourself. Okay, 1 is whatever letter, 2 is whatever letter. And you don't need anyone to help you study, but if you do, they have the answer key right in front of them so they can be able to tell you if you're right or if you're wrong. Got it? All right, number 2 would be your continental slope, which is the end of the continent, extending from the outer edge of the continental shelf down to the ocean floor. Ray. B. Some of them might be in order, some of them might not, especially when you get a quiz or a test. It definitely won't be in order. Someone read out loud for me number 3. Don't give me the answer, tell me what number 3 is, and then we have to figure out which one is the answer. Come on, read it loudly. And what would that be? Stop doing it. Go on. Continental rise is correct, which would be the letter C. I just said some of them will be, and some of them won't. When you get a quiz or a test, it definitely will not be. Ray, read number 4 to me, and then give us the letter. 4 is the what? What is 4? Yeah. Okay.
Large flag equal A. And D.
It is D. Number 5. Go ahead, okay, read it to us. Tell us what it is first. I'm not writing anything down. Good. It is F. Notice F is the chain. F is your little rigid part. That's F. All right. Number 6. Jayla, read it to us. Nope. Tell us what it is first. Louder. And then keep going. Which one would it be? I said in the very beginning that this is located wherever you see another feature. It's always going to be in the same location. It's the forming of new ocean floor. Chris. E. Right here. Rift valleys are always, always, always where you see what? Rift valleys are always Duran. Stop it. Rift valleys are always wherever you see what, Patrick? Mid-ocean ridge. Because remember, mid-ocean ridge is where plate tectonics separate, and you have new ocean floor. That new ocean floor is called the what? That new ocean floor that the mid-ocean ridge creates is called the what? Rift valley. Very good. Number 7. Jenny. Does it always have to rise above ocean floor? Okay.
So it's
G is correct. And you could also even point G here, just so you're not confused. Does everyone see where I pointed it? Okay. Number 8. Go ahead, Duran.
This lower section in the ocean floor.
I is correct. Right here. Deep cut. Yes.
The one that they color, that is brown. Well, this brown thing color.
Whatever you have, you will be able to see exactly what it is. Number 9. Go ahead, Kwan.
Diet. Flat top cement that has been introduced into deeper cold water. So carbonate material is no longer in it. And then that's
H, of course, right here. Any questions on this? Okay. Then flip your papers over. And now you have a tree map that looks like this. Now remember in the very beginning I said our ocean floor is split up into 2 parts. One part is the part that we have somewhat access to. Another part is the part that we don't have access to, and that's where SpongeBob and his family lives. What are, looking at the back, what do you think the 2 parts of the ocean floor are? Duran, try it out.
Continental Slope and Continental Shelf.
Nope. Brian? Nope. Those are all features that you give me a feature, but another one, you give me one. Jenny?
on the deep ocean basin in the continental margin.
Okay, good. So far we have the deep ocean basin and the continental margin. But now we have to decide where they go on our tree map. Because we can't just put them anywhere because they have different children. A tree map is like a family tree. You have your mom on one side, your dad on the other side, or your grandmother on one side and your grandfather on the other side. But you can't put them just anywhere because you may have different children. You may have your aunt that belongs to your grandmother. You may have your uncle that belongs to your grandfather. So you have to kind of look and see, okay, where do I put it? Because one has 5 children and one only has 3 that belongs to it. So where do we place these things? Aaliyah, tell me. Continental margin goes in the blue. How many children do the continental margin have up there? Aaron? Why would you say that? What are the 3? Exactly. Your continental margin has to go here. Because if it doesn't, if it went the other place, you're telling it has more children than it does. And it doesn't. And he said that what belongs here is the continental rise. I'm actually going to put them in order. You don't have to, but I am, just for the sake of it. So you have your continental shelf, continental slope, and continental rise. So the other side has to be your deep ocean basin. And everything left over goes there. You have your seamount, which we can also include Guyot in that same box, because a Guyot is like a seamount. You have your abyssal plain. Ocean trenches. Rift valleys. And mid-ocean ridges. Any questions? What do you need to move up for? You don't have to see it, you got the same words. Everything that's continental belongs to the continental. Everything else belongs to deep ocean basin. Are there any questions on this? Okay, while you're filling it in, go ahead.